Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sports in the Mitten. As always, I am Thomas Beindit here with Adam Biggers. It is Monday, July 31st, and it's a big day. It's a big day for the state of Michigan and college football, huh, Adam?
It is. It's the day Michigan State both opening up camps. We'll talk about Michigan State at some point this season. I do want to incorporate the Spartans into this, but I know a lot of the viewers, whatever listeners you want to call it, it's pretty much all about Michigan. So with that said, I mean, Thomas and I are going to discuss our expectations. I want to update a little bit my expectations for the 2017 class, just based on some things that Jim Harbaugh had said media day. So I mean, it's not like groundbreaking or anything. It's maybe stretching a little bit of what we initially expected, because I think that's in order for some of these guys. So we'll talk about that. Ton of questions from Twitter and Thomas. I mean, this is a late show. We're going on almost 11 o'clock, and minutes ago I said, hey, we're going to do a podcast, and it was already late. So credit to all you guys out there. We have a ton of great questions. I have a really good one from Alex Bricker off of Facebook. I'll read that too. So yeah, other than that, I mean, it's the start of camp. I remember Jim Harbaugh saying, and he's got his little Harbaughisms, right? And this year it's going to be license and ability. So okay. I mean, he's going to have his standard sayings, but license and ability is a new one, at least from what I've heard. He hasn't said that at Michigan. So we're going to talk about license and ability, I guess, but just throw the balls out, fair, honest competition, that kind of thing. So that's what's going on. There'll be a lot of availability, actually. I'm not allowed to say the times and the dates, but you guys will probably figure it out on Twitter, when people are tweeting things. But a lot of media availability throughout the week, throughout the month, leading up to week one of media stuff. So I mean, there's no media day, but I mean, there's still going to be plenty of access with the coordinators, position coaches, players, etc. So be on the lookout for that. Follow me on Twitter at AdamBiggers81 and the podcast at Mitten Sports MI. So where do you want to start? Do you want me to just read? I'll bounce the question off you, and I'll just scroll up the list. Is that how you want to do it?
Yeah, first I just want to throw out a couple thoughts as far as fall camp starts. Man, I'm ready for some football, so I'm excited. I know we don't get to watch any of this necessarily, but just knowing they're out there, putting some pads on. Well, maybe not today, but getting out there, hitting it. I mean, I know we don't talk about the NFL a ton this week, but NFL preseason, first game this week. Woo! I mean, I know it's the preseason, but hey, there's going to be football on TV. It's an exciting time, but yeah, let's just dive into some of these questions, I guess.
I don't get excited about NFL football. College football excites me. I feel like there's more storyline. I mean, I'm sure there's somebody out there that's like, oh, I know there's a ton of storylines in the NFL. For me, college football does it better. Just does it for me. Falls in Michigan and college football. I mean, we're getting into like the best. It's like, for me, fall and spring. Those are the two best times right there. Like very beginning of baseball season, very beginning of football season. Everything else is just kind of
I generally agree with you, but right now when we have no football, I'm okay with with the NFL. Anything that will get real good football games on my TV, I'm fine with. But
well, we can. I don't even know who's playing preseason. I just know. I think I saw a tweet USA Today. The Lions are not expected to make the playoffs. So I guess that was enough. News flash. I don't think so. So I guess what we can do is I'll go through the notifications. Like I said, there's a really good question from Alex Bricker on Facebook. Thomas and I will discuss it. And if I don't know if you see any live questions, sometimes Matt the Destroyer 1234, he likes to watch when I do the solo one. So you might get some on the YouTube, Thomas. So if there's any questions like that, we'll try to field them best we can. So this one's a comment. And earlier, Michigan got another commit for the 2019 class. Stephen Heron, sorry. And then I said I really like it. I like Heron, and I really like Charles Thomas, 2019 linebacker. This kid, and if you watch his film, he's ferocious. I mean, he's a guy like it almost hurts. I think sometimes like watching his film, like you're watching him just nail these guys, and like, damn, that hurt. Like it hurt, and he's one of those kind of linebackers. And here's a comment from R Roper at R Roper 854-79846. Is that his phone number? Does he want us to call him? I don't know.
Maybe.
This dude is for real. 2.0 or maybe even better. Bleed blue for life. 100. Arm flex emoji. Hashtag all day, every day blue. So our Roper likes Charles Thomas.
Okay.
I agree. I mean, I don't know. Pepper's 2.0. I mean, let's let him be Charles Thomas version 1.0. How's that?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's hard to complain too much about how Michigan's got started in 2019. As we talked about on the podcast before, with the two huge classes in 15 and 16, 16 and 17. Michigan's going to go pretty small in 18. Maybe they get 20 commits, maybe just over that, probably under that though. For the 18 cycle. So the 19 cycle is really where the attention's going to go. And Wolverines got off to a fast start. They get 2 pickups over the weekend. A tackle, defensive end rated as a 5-star, at least I think by 247. I don't think he's a 5-star in the composite, Heron. But I mean, Michigan's doing well. They missed out on Daniels, the big time quarterback, but looking good. I know it's hard to project recruiting classes when legitimately we are 2 years out from when they would be on campus. So it's hard to project too much, but looking good for Michigan as far as 2019 is concerned.
Yeah, and real quick, just for the 19 commits, like Thomas said, Michigan had 2 commits over the weekend, and that's Stephen Heron Jr. He's a 4-star defensive end. Nolan Rumler, according to 247, seen him 4 or 5-star offensive tackle. But yeah, and then Charles Thomas, a 4-star linebacker. And when I was speaking with Charles, he was talking about that Michigan liked him as a Mike and a Will linebacker. And I wrote about this not too long ago, just about the type of linebackers they're recruiting. And I don't like flip out over recruiting. I follow it enough, but it's not like you know what I mean. It's not my A1 priority. I try to track, like some of the major guys I feel, and I feel like Charles Thomas is a major guy. I feel like if you are going to look at Michigan, I mean they're going to get other players, but if you're going to just look at a recruit in general for Michigan, whether it's an 18 recruit or 19 recruit or prior or a following class recruit, and it's easy for people to hype up these kids, right? It's like, oh, this guy's the next so-and-so, this guy's the next so-and-so. And very few of them live up to those expectations. And it's not because they're not good. It's because those expectations are so damn ridiculous. Like, but I like Charles Thomas. If there's a player that I think that I'd be willing to go ahead and say, okay, I'm going to slap star label on this guy right now. It really is Charles Thomas. I think he's going to be. I mean, Jabril Peppers. I don't know. But like I said, he'll be good, and he's much in the same line of and we've talked about this, the Devin Bushes, the Josh Uches, those kind of guys, just really quick, athletic, super strong linebackers. And I posted some video of Charles, some weight room stuff, and this guy's just throwing like 405 pounds, 450 pounds, like it's like nothing. So yeah, he's Charles Thomas, definitely. So definitely, thanks for the comment, R. Roper. Our next question, and this was a joke, I know, from Mike Palco, because he comes back with a better one. Is Wilton Spade a lock for Michigan starting quarterback? And I tweeted, "No Spate questions, please."
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this one, 50 times, 60
few,
times so far this
a
offseason.
few times, at least that in the last couple days.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to just keep repeating myself. I'd say, my take on the situation is it's going to be an open competition. However, with that said, Peters is going to have to be head and shoulders above Spate if he's going to beat him out, simply because he has no experience as a starter. You're not going to throw a guy out there with no experience unless he's clearly the better option. I think Peters is very talented, going to have a really nice career at Michigan, but probably that will start in 2018 or 19.
Yeah, my thoughts or opinions on William Spate's job security haven't changed at all. He's the starter. I don't think there's any question. I do believe there will be a competition. I mean, they have to see who's going to be the backup. I believe that will be Brandon Peters. I know Jim Harbaugh did say in Chicago it was a three-way tie, but I mean, let's face it, William Spate is on the Maxwell watch list. I've cited all of this. I feel like I have memorized every single little stat about William Spate. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't have anything new to cite about what this guy has done last year. I mean, I know everything. I like the numbers are, just take my word for it. The numbers are there, and until he leaves Michigan, I believe that, and I do think if he has a really good year this year, I mean, they were talking about him last year. Mel Kiper mentioned him. I think Wilton Spate, if he has the year, that I think he's going to have, and this is injury free, if he can get close to 3,000 pennies, he's going to have all kinds of offensive weapons. And this is a whole nother discussion. And I think the potential is there for Wilton to have a pretty good year and be, a top 10, top 15 quarterback prospect in the draft. I mean, 6'6", 225 to 230 pounds, depending on where he lands. And I think he's around 225 right now. He's mobile. He's hard to tackle. I mean, it's not. I mean, there are things that you can knock about him, but then there's also like things that, okay, well, not every other quarterback can do this, and not every other 6'6" quarterback can do this. So, and like I said, that's a topic for going off there a little bit. But yeah, I believe it's Spate.
Yeah, I will just add while you're pulling up the next question here. Yeah, I mean, I think it's reasonable. I mean, he was on the NFL draft radar last year, certainly before the finish to last season. And again, we're not, or at least I know I'm not, I don't think you are either. I'm not talking about him as a first-round pick. I'm not talking about him as a second-round pick because, frankly, he would have to ball out to have any shot at either of those two rounds. But, could he sneak into the fourth round? Could he sneak into the fifth round? Sure, if he has a nice season. I mean, Jake Rudock was in the seventh round, and I don't exactly think he's a elite NFL prospect. So, I mean, I don't think getting drafted is too far out of reality for Spate, assuming he does have a nice 2017.
And here's an unrelated question, and I want to thank the Michigan area Braves. Follow them. Great collegiate league team at Michigan Braves, and they want to know who will win the NABF Saginaw Regional this weekend. Well, the winner of the Flint CBL, congratulations to American Armory. They kicked our ass a couple times. Very good team. Good luck to Tyler Owen, Brian and Dave Duva, Cole Martin, actually, former Michigan catcher, is their catcher. So, I mean, they're a really good team. Heavy left-handed lineup, and I remember playing second base with a heavy left-handed lineup. You're getting a little bit of action there, a little bit more than normal. So, and they hit the ball hard. So they're facing Pontiac Jetbox. Honestly, Michigan area Braves, I don't know the entire the field, but I replied, I'm going to be a homer, and I think Flint. It's been a long time since the Flint team has won an NABF regional, so I'm being a homer, and I think that American Armory gets it done on Thursday. It's 10 o'clock Thursday morning at Saginaw Valley Lutheran, which is a fantastic field. Who do you think wins the regional, Thomas? Bro?
I'll just go with your comments. I have
American
no
Armory it
idea.
is.
So
All right, T.O., let's go. T.O., if you're watching, we need it. Bring it home for the Flint area. Our next question is, this one comes from at CJ Rockford. Will Nordine be handling field goals this year? Quinn Nordine, yeah, I think so. Did you see him in the spring game?
oh
It's
yeah,
like a
I
48 yarder. That thing would have been good from 53, 54.
I think there's no doubt Nordine's going to be kicking the field goals. I think the only question is how does he perform in crunch time, which, to be honest, we're not going to know until that situation pops up because we've seen kickers with plenty of leg that just have trouble in those big time kicking situations. So
Yeah,
I think
what happened
that's
with Tyler Durbin, right? Isn't that the Ohio State kicker? He missed two of them against Michigan State.
well, heck, let's not forget. Last season there were a couple big time missed field goals against Wisconsin. It
Yeah,
didn't cost Michigan because they ended up being ahead by enough. But we can get into the discussion. I don't want to play the what if game, but had
but
Michigan beaten Iowa and they had been 11-1 with that narrow loss to Ohio State, that potentially could have cost them a playoff bid because as much as people don't want to admit it, the point spreads play a huge factor in perception, the votes, etc. So, I mean, that kind of stuff does matter at the end of the season. So definitely something to watch in the big time game situations. But I
well,
think Nordine's your guy, though.
yeah, and tying it into that too. And I mean, the crunch time, yeah, plenty of leg, but I mean, a lot of it isn't so much the leg; it's the head, right? And I think
Mm-hmm.
sure we saw. I mean, you mentioned like Kenny Allen. He had what he missed those two against Wisconsin. He didn't miss one for the rest of the year, and Kenny, found his happy place or whatever it was, and it's like in Happy Gilmore, right? When he's putting and whatever he does, he found his moment of zen, and that came, I think, with a lot of maturity too. I mean, he was a fifth-year senior, so I mean, Quinn Nordine's a young kid, second year, so we're looking at him as, I mean, yeah, physically, I don't think that there's any doubt that he has enough leg. I think a lot of it is going, like you mentioned, how does he handle the crunch time? And I mean, field goal. I think this year, field goal kicking and special teams for Michigan is going to be important. I don't think that they had, and this will be a whole other discussion. I will say this. I think while we talk about all the important losses position to position, and I keep saying this over and over, do not forget the importance of what Kenny Allen did for Michigan last year. So, and I think that's that's going to be an important gap to fill. So,
Yeah.
um,
I
let me
also
see.
wanted to throw in as well, while we're on the special teams thing. I think this is a position group a lot of people are, as far as Michigan's concerned, are just totally overlooking. You lost your kicker, you lost your punter, and perhaps most importantly, you lost your return man. The stuff I have been hearing, I don't know if it's accurate, is that there's going to be a wide variety of guys on kickoffs and punts. We saw McDoom in the spring. Maybe David Long, maybe Peoples Jones, maybe
Chris Evans. I
Evans.
think DPJ
Yeah.
and Chris Evans probably are two guys.
Yeah, I think, and it's going to be interesting because they had some trouble with that in the spring game.
Kalik or Josh.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of campaigning for Josh Metellus and Kalik Hudson because I'm like,
uh,
look at that scoop from the Orange Bowl, Josh Metellus. Yeah, but put it this way. I mean, Jabril could return, right? They're
mhm.
heirs to the Viper, so I'm just doing kind of, linking by association, possibly. And I'm not. Nobody has told me this. I don't have any inside information regarding Kalik or Josh returning kicks. I'm just saying that to me they would be logical candidates.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I think we've seen Michigan has been very inventive, very specialized since Harbaugh came on, and part of that obviously is his staff, but the special teams have been excellent across the board, and Michigan's really going to need to maintain that, assuming they get some drop off in the offense and in the defense and potentially the offense. So something to watch, definitely.
We have a special request. This one's from Adam, and I'm gonna Nissen. NISSON. I hope I pronounced that right. At NISNAT. Can you talk about Shanley, the wide receiver? Yes. Jim Harbaugh mentioned Nate Shanley at least, and this is like this is unprovoked. This isn't, hey, someone asked a specific, what does Nate Shanley have to do? This is Jim Harbaugh just talking about guys, and Nate Shanley, I'm not even kidding. He mentioned him at least 3 or 4 times during Big Ten media days.
Mm-hmm.
So Nate Shanley has made a pretty good impression, I think. I think that he's going to be a guy that we see in the 2 deep. As far as talk about him, I mean, Adam, I don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, Thomas, what he played? He played what last year? He played against Hawaii, I think. I'd have to double check that. I think he played against Hawaii.
Maybe he did. I know he's a redshirt freshman, so I don't know if this was a medical redshirt.
I think he got in against Hawaii. He has no stats. I mean, other than can you talk about Shanley, the wide receiver? He's going to be a guy we ask about this week during camp. I know that I will ask about him. And like I said, Harbaugh mentioned him at least 3 or 4 times. So there's something legitimate with this going on with him. Nate is definitely in the position where he's competing for, like I said, like a top 2 spot. He's in that 2 deep mix. I have to believe that.
I would say, first off, I could be wrong on this, but I thought he sat out last year, redshirted, obviously former walk-on player. I thought my impressions, at least from the spring, were runs good routes, gets open, and catches the ball, which is usually what you want in a wide receiver. Certainly a guy who plays at that slot position.
He did play.
Oh, did he?
Okay. He did against Hawaii. Just looked it up. I was going to say, because I thought I saw it. I'm like, who the hell is Shanley? Like, I distinctly remember seeing his jersey last year, and I was like, it was the Hawaii game, because that was Chris Evans' big time breakout game. And a bunch of freshmen were getting in that one. So anyway, sorry.
Okay. So that's my impression. I do not think this is a guy who's going to, light up the stat sheets and put on some highlight catches, so to speak. But I think he's going to be a nice possession receiver. I think he's going to make some key catches down the stretch. And maybe this is a bold prediction, but I think he's going to start. This is just mine. Harbaugh had said that he was their top guy out of the spring, I believe. Grant Perry was the slot guy last year. Obviously, he has some off the field issues, which for the season, but I think he's going to be working from behind. McDoom, I like McDoom. I know a lot of people are very high on him, but I don't know. I mean, the stuff I've seen from him, I am a little curious to see whether he can reach that next level as a receiver, particularly, he was a real nice at jet sweeps, stuff like that. But, at some point he's got to get out there, start making some plays through the passing game. So I don't know. Maybe it's a hot take, but I think he's going to start. That's my prediction here.
I mean, he's in there. I don't know if I would say I don't know if you're necessarily going too far out. I mean, he's in there, definitely. Nate Shanley is a player that we're going to see a lot of, I think, this fall. Mike Palco, at Pike Malco, comes back. Like I said, I knew he had a better question than Wilton Spate starts. Like, come on, Mike, come on, man. All right, which defensive unit will need the most help after losing many Wolverines to the NFL? I'll throw that one to you, Thomas. You can start.
Cornerback all day.
You want to start for that one?
Yeah, to me it's head and shoulders above. First off, the D line is loaded. I know there are concerns about the depth, but you're talking about. Is it even crazy to say they could realistically have 3 all Big Ten guys on that line? I mean, I don't think it's crazy in the slightest.
No, I don't think so either.
Yeah,
you already know 2 of them, Rashawn and Mo.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at a guy like Winovich who could really build up the sacks.
Maybe Brian Monet.
Yep, another guy with crazy talent.
Maybe Solomon, all freshman. I mean,
yeah. So I mean, that kind of speaks for itself at D line. Linebacker, they didn't. I mean, I know they lost Gideon, but I mean, you're bringing back two great guys, plenty of depth there, and moving back, safety. I think safety on paper has a lot of uncertainty, but you have two guys who have played in real game action and have actually been productive, so to speak. Looked good. Corner, I don't know. I mean, you got talent, but it's crazy young. None of them have played any real snaps. And the thing for me, what makes cornerback such a concerning position, if I'm a person just looking from the broad spectrum here, is if you have a couple really nice recruits, you usually figure, all right, one of these guys is going to work out, one of them's going to be ready to play. Okay, so that locks down one of your positions, but you need another one, and you need a nickelback too. And I don't know how Michigan's going to have three good quality cornerbacks. Certainly not comparable to last year's guys right now. And that also accounts for no injury issues at all, which is always a scary thought in football. So I would say cornerback, and I don't even think it's close.
And that actually leads us to a good question. Andrew Burris, at Andrew Burris, and that's Buris. Andrew's very active. He's always asking questions, and he says, "Just seems like we haven't heard a lot about David Long Jr. How's he coming along? He was highly recruited, and hopefully he's in the mix." And then there's another one. What's up with David Long? I've heard a lot of good things with Vert Hill, Keith Washington, up and coming talent, Brandon Watson, etc. Keith Washington is very athletic. I think Keith is going to be a guy that you watch for in the two deep. I mean, Brandon Watson is going to be there. We mentioned Khaleke Hudson as a safety, Tyreek Canal as well as a Tyree's cornerback. So not a lot of game experience, but I mean, and I'll just go back to what, kind of my stock answer on David Long and Lavert Hill is, I mean, we heard a lot about him last year during fall.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you consider the guys who were playing behind him, they were playing behind an All-American and, all Big Ten guys. So that's I know that's where people are like, well, yeah, the depth, and I'm worried about the youth and all this other stuff. And I had got a comment the other day when I did a solo podcast about a question actually from Andrew about the D-line depth. And I mean, I think as long as basically it's like until proven wrong, right? I mean, who was calling Jordan Lewis an All-American?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody.
Yeah.
When he was I mean, I think people who watch Michigan football and local beat writers, they saw, okay, tasted what he could do a little bit as a freshman, sophomore, like, okay, the Jordan Lewis, and then his junior year, like, man, Jordan Lewis is a lockdown cornerback, and then his senior year, everybody's like, oh, Jordan Lewis is a lockdown cornerback. So that was kind of the progress there. So, and that again, that's kind of another discussion. But I mean, David Long, Lavert Hill, two of the most athletic guys on the team from what I've heard, and I've talked to several guys, during spring. The linebackers, they were talking about David and Lavert. So I'm not. Yeah, it's young. Yeah, it's inexperienced game wise, but we're looking at David and Lavert second year, Keith Washington third year, Brandon Watson. Brandon's a junior, right?
I want to say so. Yes, he is a redshirt junior.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, these are guys who've been around. I mean, Brandon Watson's played. Tyreek Canel's played a little bit. But yeah, I mean, you don't have two corners coming back with 12 starts from the previous year. Okay, we understand that, but you have guys who have been right there. I think I don't have. It would be easy to go, okay, yeah, the youth thing. They're gonna make young mistakes. I think at cornerback too, in the secondary, I think that's a position group that if you're young and you're making young mistakes, I think you see them the most there, right? Because what happens? Okay, maybe if you're a young defensive lineman and you miss an assignment, okay, it's a couple extra yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're a young cornerback and you misread the route, I mean, that's a touchdown maybe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I feel like the margin of error is much larger there at cornerback. And we'll see that. But long story short, Andrew, yeah, Thomas, you have a little bit of concern about the youth, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say, part of my answer was in the context of which position group concerns you the most. And I feel pretty good about the defensive line and linebackers, and pretty solid about the safeties. So kind of by necessity, I have to be most worried about the cornerbacks. But yeah, I mean, on a positive side, though, the first thing is, like I said before, very talented. I mean, you're talking about, Lavert Hill and David Long, who both project to be really, really nice college corners. You mentioned Keith Washington, Watson, guys who could kind of rise up. And, some of the freshmen, St. Just, I'm not as optimistic.
He'd been mentioned.
Yeah. I'm not as optimistic about Ambry Thomas playing this year. I think he's probably a little bit too small. But I think you have talent there. And the other thing is the secondary coaching the last couple of years has been superb. I don't think you can question the coaching back in the backfield at all, or the defensive backfield, I should say. It's.
Go ahead. That's been a position group where coaching has changed a little bit, right? I mean, we're Greg Jackson. Initially, I'm trying to think who else was back there with him. And then it was then Mike Zordich. Zordich was there. Jackson left, and then Brian Smith. So I mean, now with Zordich and Brian Smith, I think like you said, Ambry Thomas. I don't think he'll probably play a lot this year. I don't know. Redshirt, maybe. I don't know about Jalen Kelly Powell either. Maybe they. I mean, but they have. I do like Benjamin St. Just. I do remember back in spring, Jamarick Woods as a safety too. It's I'm not trying to flop back to safeties, but he's a guy maybe. I don't know. I mean, but he's. All I remember is people were saying like he could hit.
Yeah,
and that's what they want. So let me see. That was we went all kinds of ways on this. Sorry about that. I did. But that was a good question. Andrew asked good questions. They're good ones to make you want to talk. Oh, I think we have okay, I'll take this. This is one last late one from Brian Hall at 15 BS Hall 97. And then I want to get to Alex Bricker's comment. And I guess expectations for 2017. We'll say that one for next. And actually, you know what? It'll be better because this week I'll be able to get some more information too. So that's probably better. So, all right, we'll end with Alex's. This one from Brian Hall. I think the defense will be elite this year despite the youth in the defensive backfield. has recruited well. What are your expectations? I don't know. Brian might be watching live. I don't know. What are my expectations for the defensive back? I mean, I think we just covered them. Really, I mean, my expectations are they're not going to be horrible. My expectations are we probably will see some young mistakes because they are young. And again, when the secondary, if you're young, I feel like you can get exposed there too. Just like I feel like if you're a young quarterback trying to force things, you can get exposed a little bit. So, but it's particularly I guess that's it. I ADHD'd out for a second. I heard a noise downstairs. I was like, oh wait, my TV's on.
I feel like as far as defensive expectations, I think this is for sure going to be a top 25 defense, probably top 20. I think once you start talking about
defense, okay, for the whole defense, yeah.
Sorry, that's what I thought the question was. But
it was. I didn't. Yeah, it was. Never mind.
I would say once you start talking about top 15, top 10, I think that's when you have to start wondering, okay, what's the secondary going to look like? How's the depth going to look? Because your margin for error, and again, I'm not trying to nitpick here, but if you're talking about a top 10 elite defense, your margin for error is like this.
Right.
You can't have a terrible guy at any position. Everybody has to be good. Maybe not all American, like last year, but
everybody was all Big Ten last year on Michigan.
Yeah. Like you don't need that, but you're going to need some All-American candidates. You're going to need some All Big Ten guys, and everybody's going to have to be solid, at least, probably good. So, I mean, I don't know quite about that. We'll have to see. But, if one of these cornerbacks can show up and be a, All Big Ten honorable mention guy or something like that, the safeties are solid. The depth kind of rises up, and one of these linebackers turns into a real beast of a player, which I think is perfectly possible. With Devin Bush or Mike McRae. Then I think you start talking about, okay, this defense could be top 10, something like that. But overall, my expectation is probably somewhere between 10 to 15, maybe a little bit outside of that. I think Don Brown's going to get a lot out of the defense. I think nationally he kind of goes under the radar a little bit. But I think this will be a really good defense. I definitely don't think it's going to be as good as last year. But the question is where does that bite them? I mean, because they were absolutely destructive like the first half of the season. But when you're beating teams by 50, I mean, if they drop off a little bit, it's not going to matter that much. They really need the defense to show up, when they're facing a Penn State, Wisconsin, Ohio State, games like that.
I'll say, I mean, I can see Michigan having a top 3 defense in the Big Ten without any issue. Let's see. This last one from Alex Bricker. Not sure what all you have taken so far, but I see the line, and he's talking about offensive line. Bredesen, Cole, Kugler, Onwenu, and man, I cannot say Chuck's name. Is it Falaga? Chuck Falaga, is that how he says it?
Filiaga, I think.
Filiaga. Oh, yeah, it is Filiaga. Someone corrected me on Twitter one time. Sorry if you're watching there, Chuck. Chuck Filiaga, John Runyon, or Nolan Aluzio. What do you see there? Which TE tight end ends up being the go-to guy? Which wide receiver has the best chemistry with Spate? What kind of differences do we see with Pep and running the show? Alex, great questions, but it's 11:30, so we're going to start with the offensive line, and we will either next time Thomas and I do one, which could be probably tomorrow, or if I do a solo one, we're going to, like I said, with camp starting, we're going to be doing a bunch. I'll have a lot of video content as far as YouTube interviews with players and assistants and coordinators and all that stuff. So, fine. Your offensive line projections.
Yeah, I mean, I'd start off with saying I agree with 4 of those. I think Cole, Bredesen are undoubtedly going to start. They started last year. I see no reason why they would drop out of the lineup this year. So I think those 2 are extremely safe. Just pencil them in, wherever they land. I think Kugler is relatively safe just because I think they're going to want to have Cole at a tackle position. I think their best 5, it's hard to imagine Cole at center with their best 5 in the lineup. Onwenu, I agree. I think he's going to be at guard. I'm a little concerned as far as the conditioning goes, which I think is a common theme. But if he can hit the ground running, I mean, it's going to be hard to move him. I'll put it that way. Big guy.
But I'm telling you, man, I've seen Michael Onwenu in person a few times. I know like you look at his weight and you're like, wow, like, hey, he weighs a lot. I'm telling you, man, he's in like he's in like good athletic shape.
Yeah. I hope so. We'll see.
I mean, I know that they've asked him, to lose weight. So I'm telling you, like you look at him, you can tell, like, okay, this guy can move a little bit. I mean, I feel like don't let the weight thing. Obviously, the leaner he gets, and a little bit quicker in it. But Mike just he carries it well. You know what I mean? It's like that's his size, but you can tell that he's pretty athletic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As opposed to let's say somebody else's size with the same weight, there's no, they just looked at, you know what I mean? They just looked at it.
I'm just curious. I'll just put it this way. I'm just a little curious about fourth quarter in September in a college football game, maybe in the state of Dallas. We'll see. We'll see how it holds up. the right tackle spot I think is wide open. Uluzio certainly in there, Runyon, Bushel Beatty. I just have a hard time thinking one of the freshmen is going to break into the lineup. It's certainly possible, but playing freshmen on an offensive line usually spells bad news. It happened last year with Bredesen, and I think Michigan probably paid for it a little bit in some of those big games down the stretch. I don't know if they want to again. I will note, I saw some people talking about this earlier today, and it was an interesting concept. Maybe they would think about moving Bredesen out to right tackle, if they can't find a guy who can play there. But obviously, I think their first priority would be keep him at, or preference, I should say, keep him at left guard. But yeah, so I mean, that's how I see it. My guess is probably right now I would say Runyon, but they got 4 weeks before the first game, so we'll see what happens.
I want to see Juwan Bushel Beatty get in there because I mean Juwan, and he's another guy. If you see him in person, Juwan is just like, imagine trying to play against him. I guess is what I'm trying to say. I mean, he's got the reach. I mean, he's in really good physical shape. I mean, he's just a big, long guy that I feel like, okay, yeah, he fits well as a tackle. He's a guy who's going to be he's a guy who's going to be able to keep up, I think, with some of those fast defensive ends, maybe even handle linebackers, that kind of thing. He's strong. If Juwan Bushel Beatty can stay healthy, I think I like him as a right tackle. If I had to pick a starting offensive line right now, I mean, I don't know if Mason Cole, if they maybe later use him as center, but I mean, I have to assume left tackle, Ben Bredesen left guard. I would say don't Cesar Ruiz or Patrick Kugler at center. I mean, Cesar, Cesar's done well. And again, we'll find out more this week and hopefully be able to give a little bit more of an idea. As far as right guard, yeah, I think it's Michael Onwenu. And right tackle, I mean, yeah, John Runyon, I was told is the most athletic, one of the most athletic, I think Harbaugh said John Runyon was the most athletic offensive lineman they have.
Wow.
So you got to figure Runyon in there too. Juwan Bushel Beatty. But as far as any like youngsters, I mean, I think Cesar Ruiz is probably and Chuck Filiaga are probably going to be the only two that we even hear about be considered. But yeah, Nolan Iluzio in there too. So I think you're onto it, Thomas. I think you had a pretty good idea. We'll save the rest of your questions for the next episode, Alex. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. Again, I want to thank Mr. Spots, Tim and Keith at Mr. Spots in Ann Arbor, getting ready for the Monday press conference. Who would go stop in there, 808 State. I'll be in there at least probably twice this week, I'm sure, at least. So, because there are, I'd have to check again. There's availability coming up. I think there's at least 2 sessions this week, so I'll be down there. And again, that's 808 State Street in Ann Arbor, MrSpotsAnnArbor.com. You can follow the podcast at Mitten Sports MI. You can follow myself on Twitter at AdamBiggers81. I have some Michigan football stuff. I'm doing the freshman to sophomore leap series for camp. So be on the lookout for that. And I'm starting with Kareem Walker. So that one should be up tomorrow. So that'll be on FanRag Sports, FanRagSports.com at FanRag_U.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at tbeindit. I write for BT Powerhouse, all Big Ten hoops stuff. Writing about scheduling right now. Not a ton of news on the basketball front, but there's always blurbs out there once in a while.
Well, we'll have to do. We'll try to get at least some basketball talk. I know during football, at least once per week, just to stay, keep everybody updated on it. But again, it's with football season, and I'm running out of gas here. It's been a long day. Spent a little bit of time up at the field today, and it was kind of just one of those draining kind of hot days. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was a hot one. That's for sure.
So I'm ready to hit the cold sheets and lay down in front of the fan. But again, I want to thank everybody for participating tonight. We'll have some episodes coming up and as we just said, don't tweet us if you have questions, anything like that you want to hear us talk about on the show. We're always open for suggestions. So I'm Adam. He's Thomas. Thanks again for watching. We'll talk to you next time.